The Okavango Delta doesn't forgive mistakes. Everyone who works there knows this. Ethan Clark knew it better than most. He'd been a wildlife tracker for 12 years, guiding researchers through terrain that could kill you in 100 different ways if you weren't careful. But on the fourth day of tracking a poaching ring, careful wasn't enough. They found him at dawn, 2 rangers following coordinates from his emergency beacon. He was tied to a baobab tree, rope cutting deep into his wrists and ankles. The poachers had taken his water, his radio, his weapon. They'd left him to die. By the time the rangers reached him, Ethan had been there for 2 days, dehydrated, delirious, barely conscious, but alive. Because something had been keeping the scavengers away, something the rangers didn't see until they were 20 feet from the tree. A male lion, massive, golden, lying in the shade 10 meters away, watching. The rangers froze. Protocol said, tranquilize the threat, extract the victim, get out fast. But something was wrong with the picture. The lion wasn't stalking, wasn't hunting, wasn't displaying any territorial aggression. He was just there, guarding. Ethan stirred, his head lifting slightly through waves of pain and delirium. Through blurred vision, he saw death approaching on 4 paws. The lion moved closer. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. This is how it ends. But when the lion stopped inches from his face, Ethan didn't feel the breath of a predator. He saw something else. A deep scar on the lion's right ear, torn and healed badly, the kind of wound that never fully closes. A mark Ethan himself had helped stitch 4 years ago. His voice came out as a broken whisper. "Aslan, is that you?" The lion's amber eyes held his gaze, and in that moment, Ethan understood. The wild hadn't forgotten. One of the rangers, a woman named Maya, noticed it first. "He's protecting him," she whispered. Her partner, Jonas, raised his rifle anyway. "Lions don't protect people." "Then why hasn't he eaten him?" Maya moved closer, slowly, hands visible. The lion's gaze shifted to her. She stopped 10 feet away, knelt. "I'm here to help him," she said quietly, "same as you." The lion didn't move. Maya approached Ethan and began cutting the ropes with her knife. The lion stood. Jonas tensed, finger hovering near the trigger. "Maya?" "Wait." The lion walked closer, not stalking, walking with purpose. He stopped 3 feet from Maya and sat down. She kept cutting. The ropes fell away from Ethan's wrists. When his arms dropped, lifeless, Ethan began to collapse forward. The lion moved. With impossible gentleness for a 400-pound predator, he pressed his shoulder against Ethan's chest, stopping his fall, holding him upright. Maya froze, knife still in hand, watching something that shouldn't exist. The lion was caring for Ethan the same way he would care for an injured member of his own pride. Jonas lowered his rifle slightly, his voice barely audible. "What the hell?" Maya finished cutting the ankle ropes. Together with Jonas, they lifted Ethan. The lion stepped back, but didn't leave. "The vehicle is 200 meters north," Jonas said. "We need to move now." They started walking. The lion followed, not close, 20 feet back, parallel to their path, escorting them. When they reached the Land Rover and loaded Ethan inside, Maya turned to look for the lion. He was sitting at the edge of the clearing, watching. She raised her hand, a small gesture of gratitude. The lion held her gaze for 3 long seconds. Then he stood and walked back toward the tree where he'd kept vigil for 2 days. His job was done. Ethan spent 2 days in the hospital. Severe dehydration, rope burns, mild exposure, but alive. When he was coherent enough to talk, Maya sat beside his bed. "You called him by name," she said. "Aslan." Ethan nodded slowly. 4 years ago, I was guiding a veterinary team doing population surveys. We found a young male caught in a wire snare. It had torn through his ear, cut deep into the cartilage. Infection was setting in. He was dying. He paused, the memory vivid. The vet wanted to tranquilize him immediately, but he was in shock, too aggressive to approach. I sat with him for 6 hours, just sat there, talking, not trying to get close, just letting him know he wasn't alone. And he calmed down. Enough for the vet to dart him. We removed the snare, cleaned the wound, stitched what we could. His ear would never heal properly, too much tissue damage, but he'd live. Ethan's voice broke slightly. When he woke up, I was the first thing he saw. I visited him every day for 3 weeks. The vet said it was stupid, that wild animals don't remember kindness. Maya leaned forward. But he did. He did. And when I was tied to that tree, dying of thirst, surrounded by the sounds of hyenas, he found me. How? I don't know. The Okavango is 15,000 square kilometers, but he found me, and he stayed. 3 weeks after Ethan was rescued, Maya received a call from Reserve Headquarters. Wildlife Services had issued a removal order for the lion. What? Maya gripped the phone. Why? He's been exhibiting unusual behavior, approaching vehicles, lingering near ranger stations, showing diminished fear of humans. He's not aggressive. He's unpredictable, and unpredictable lions get people killed. Maya drove to headquarters and confronted Director Samuel Okafor. You can't remove him. Samuel stood at his window, looking out over the reserve. Maya, I understand what happened was remarkable, but we have protocols. He saved a man's life. And that makes him dangerous. How? Because now he associates humans with safety, with help. What happens the next time he approaches someone? Someone who doesn't know him, someone who panics and shoots. So we punish him for being kind? Samuel turned to face her. We protect him from the consequences of being kind. He'll be relocated to a sanctuary, enclosed habitat. He'll be cared for. He'll be caged. He'll be alive. Maya went to find him. It took 2 days of tracking, but she found Aslan near the northern waterhole. He wasn't alone. A white lioness lay beside him in the shade, and pressed against her belly, nursing, was a single cub. White, impossibly small, maybe 3 weeks old. Maya's breath caught. White lions were genetic miracles, sacred to local tribes, worth millions to poachers. If anyone found out... She backed away slowly, but Aslan had already seen her. He stood, positioned himself between Maya and his family. Not aggressive, protective. Maya knelt down, making herself small. "I'm not a threat," she whispered. "I'm trying to help you." Aslan watched her for a long moment. Then he did something that stopped Maya's heart. He stepped aside. The white lioness lifted her head, assessed Maya with calm, golden eyes, then lowered it again. Permission granted. Maya stayed kneeling, 20 feet away, tears streaming down her face. "They're going to take you," she said. "They're going to put you in a cage because they think you're dangerous. But if they find out about her," she gestured to the lioness, "and that cub, poachers will never stop hunting." Aslan sat down, watching, listening. Maya pulled out her radio. "Jonas, it's Maya. I need you to trust me." Maya, Jonas, and Ethan met that night at the ranger station. "You want to do what?" Jonas stared at her. "Relocate them, quietly, before Wildlife Services executes the removal order." "That's illegal." "So is poaching. So is leaving a man to die. We do illegal things all the time when it's right." Ethan leaned forward, his voice steady. "Where would we take them?" "Moremi Reserve, 600 kilometers west. Bigger territory, less human contact, better protection." "You've already planned this." "I've contacted the reserve director. She'll accept them, off the books." Jonas shook his head. If we get caught, we lose our jobs, I know. And if the lion doesn't cooperate? Maya looked at Ethan. He will. How do you know? Because he trusts someone in this room. Ethan met her gaze. You want me to guide him. I want you to ask him. They moved at night, 2 vehicles, one carrying the sedated lioness and cub in a specialized transport crate, the other, driven by Ethan, moving slow with doors open, Aslan walking alongside. For 6 hours, through the dark, across rough terrain, avoiding roads and checkpoints. Ethan spoke to him the whole way, his voice steady over the radio. We're taking you somewhere safe. Your family will be safe, I promise. The lion never strayed more than 10 feet from the vehicle. When they crossed into Moremi territory, the reserve director, a woman named Thandi, met them at a remote access point. She opened the crate. The lioness stumbled out first, disoriented, the cub mewing softly against her side. Aslan moved immediately to them, nuzzling the cub, checking the lioness. Everything he loved was safe. Ethan stepped out of the vehicle. Aslan turned. For a long moment, they looked at each other across the space that separated their worlds. Then Ethan did something that made every person there hold their breath. He walked forward and placed his hand on Aslan's mane. 4 years ago, that hand had held a scalpel to save the lion's life. Today, that same hand trembled with gratitude because the lion had saved his. They weren't man and beast anymore. They were 2 survivors who had refused to let the other die alone. You're home now, Ethan whispered. Keep them safe. Aslan pressed his scarred head against Ethan's chest. Just once, a gesture of gratitude that transcended language. Then he turned, gathered his family, and walked into the Moremi darkness. Ethan stood there long after they disappeared, his hand still warm from the lion's mane. Wildlife Services discovered the removal order had been fulfilled 3 days later. The official report stated the lion had been successfully relocated to a sanctuary facility. No one questioned it. Samuel O'Coffer called Maya into his office 1 week later. I know what you did. Maya said nothing. The paperwork doesn't match. The timing is wrong, and Ethan Clark took unauthorized leave the exact night the lion disappeared. Maya met his eyes. Are you going to report it? Samuel leaned back in his chair. A poaching ring was arrested last week. 8 men. They had maps, equipment, and detailed notes about a white lioness spotted in the northern sector. Maya's blood went cold. If that lion had still been here, Samuel continued, if that cub had still been here, they would have been taken, killed, sold. He stood and walked to the window. I have no proof you relocated them illegally, and I have no interest in finding proof. As far as I'm concerned, the removal order was fulfilled properly. Maya exhaled. But Maya? Yes? Don't ever do it again. She smiled. Yes, sir. 2 years later, Ethan received a photograph from Thandi at Moremi Reserve. 3 white lions. A male with a torn ear, a lioness, and a young cub, nearly grown now, his white coat catching the sun. Thriving. In the photograph, Aslan was looking directly at the camera. As if he knew. As if he remembered. Ethan pinned the photograph above his desk, next to the scar on his own wrist where the ropes had cut deepest. 2 scars, 2 survivors, 1 bond that refused to break. Some debts transcend species. Some friendships are written in scars and trust. And the wild never forgets who chose to stay. If this story reminded you why compassion matters, why bonds cross every boundary we think exists, subscribe to our channel. We share stories like this every week, stories that prove love has no language and gratitude has no limits, because the wild remembers, and so should we. See you in the next one.